Okay, I guess, okay, so it's recording. Perfect. So, today we are going to have a very quick intro to the internet. Da-da! Because next week you are starting your real adventure with the internet. Welcome to the 21st century. And also because actually your CLI may be so much better or so much more exciting for you, but also frustrating, if you use external database. So we'll look into that in this lecture, right? So today we'll also practice writing a command line application. So I will try to guide you through how to set it up, you know? And then we'll talk about exactly the internet, and and we'll practice making requests to an API. What we will be doing is we'll review ActiveRecord project setup. We will build an app that basically just gives you a dad joke every time you ask. And also, if we have time, it will save that joke to your favorite jokes, which is pretty exciting. And this we need to change. So when it comes to user stories, user will be able to sign up, log into the application. We'll be able to search for jokes. This needs to be edited, and save the jokes and see all the jokes. These two are gonna happen only if we have time. We will build welcome message and user login. We'll implement the search, and we'll save the results, right? This is our domain model. So you see that there is a user, there is a joke, there is a joiner that is user joke. So what type of relationship is that? I'm just checking whether you're not asleep. You can just say, yeah. Has many, and has many through. Awesome. So let's go to the app. Oops. Okay, so as you see, I already downloaded the repo. Where am I? Okay, so I'm going to CD to the lecture kit. But if you want to code along, you can just, or like if you want to code along later at home, you can just use starter kit. Okay, so I'm in the lecture kit, and I'm just gonna open it in a separate editor, just so that I'm not confused at any point with the files that are named the same in different folders. Cool. So now, let's open the README. It's always good to have a README. Wait. How do I split screen in this?
You can have another tab open.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Cool. So, okay. So review ActiveRecord project setup. So now, whenever you see that you have a gem file, and also if you don't have a gem file, I would encourage you to maybe start with that. And so when you have a gem file, it's always a good practice to write bundle to run bundle in the very beginning. Can you see? Well, yes. So now you can see that all my gems have been installed. Now, let's look into those gems. Let's see what we'll be working with. So now, do you know what gems are, actually? Who can explain what gems are? Like, okay, go ahead.
Other people's code that you could use in your own code.
Yeah. So Mohammed said other people's code that you can use in your app. Yes, that's correct. It is. I like to think about it like extensions to a game. You know, like for example, you had Sims game, and then you get Sims Party, Sims Animals. You know, so I like to think about gems like those, add-ons. Something that makes your app get superpowers, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the superpowers that we'll have is ActiveRecord, and then we'll be working on SQLI 3. That's the database. We'll use Pry, of course, because how else would we go through debugging? Require all. Do you know what that is? This is. Go ahead.
This
Right.
The required relatives.
So
But is this like requiring all of the relatives?
everything that's in a given folder. I will show you in a moment. Faker, actually we won't be using it here, but it is a good gem if you want to create a lot of fake data so that you don't spend 5 years creating users with their unique usernames and stuff. You can just use Faker. I encourage looking into that. We also look into Colorize. That's really fun. It helps you make your app really colorful. And REST client, which is the main guest of our dinner tonight, right? So REST client actually allows us to work with the internet, which is pretty exciting. Okay, so we've already done that. Let's look into our process. So we created the gem file and run bundle. Now we should create migrations. So we already have migrations, spoiler alert. And I'm just gonna, in order to see, like I cannot multitask. Wait, did I just? I think I did. I think I deleted the whole. Because we don't have time to run everything. You know, like create the whole migration and stuff. I will just copy it from the starter kit. Copy, and now, cool. And we do paste. Will I be positively surprised? Yes. Okay, but now this, we want to delete. So this is not really a beautiful thing to do, what I'm doing now. Don't learn from me. If you want to totally, like in a very clumsy way, restart your totally start your migration from scratch, you can just delete the development and schema. Okay, so this is what I did. As you see, we have the migration files and we have the seeds. So before we run migration, let's look into that. So we have create users, and we see that the users will be instantiated with name, username. Do you want to add anything else? The less is the better. Okay, in jokes, we just have the content. Cool. And then user jokes. What should there be? So what do you think there should be? Go ahead.
T.string.
So what are you saying?
T.string.
And what's gonna happen?
It would be, that creates the table, and then you set the table name to be jokes.
But the table already exists for jokes, right? So maybe we want to just create associations between a specific joke and a specific user. So what would you do?
So do integer.
Uh-huh.
And then the user, or jokes ID.
Like this?
With the colon in front.
Yes.
And then another integer with the colon, and then the other table ID.
Uh-huh. User. Mm-hmm. Cool. How does that look?
Amazing.
Uh-huh. Mazen has a question.
Is it on purpose by 4 because it's plural?
No. I mean, I like to troll people, so yeah. So exactly, this is good to remember that here you are tying this user jokes to just one user and one joke, right? Singular. What would happen if it was plural?
It wouldn't work.
Well, it would work because Ruby would help you out, and actually maybe tomorrow I will try to show you what would happen, but today I will just move on. But if you are super curious, I encourage you to explore that on your own. Okay, but so we know that, so this is, so we already created the migrations, right? So let's run break db migrate. Let's see what's gonna happen. Break aborted. Don't know how to build task db. Do you know what happened? There was a space. Yeah? Okay, so the migrations worked. We know it because we see it. And we also know it because development, files development and schema just appeared out of nowhere. Now, if you want to check whether what you thought you did is actually what happened, you go to schema. And you see whether this is what actually you think your tables have. So jokes have content, and the content is a string. It's not an integer, it's a string, right? User jokes, integer, joke ID, user ID. And table users has a string username. Awesome. But now, let's look into our README. Remember, never ever ever change anything in schema. Like, that's serious. Yes, Shami.
Could you comment on bundle exec? I've seen that a lot when I do trying to execute the role.
Like this.
Bundle exec.
So exec needs a command to run. As far as I don't want to. I try to not explain stuff with great confidence when I don't know the full story. So I will just delegate it to Evans. Do you know?
Yes. So what bundle does is it obviously will take all the gems in the gem file and apply it to this application.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have installed in your computer right now something known as RVM. What RVM is, it means Ruby Version Manager. And the reason we have that is because, obviously, as new versions of Ruby come out, we want to lock you to one particular version so that nothing changes wildly. How many of you updated your phone or updated your laptop and then something broke? Like it doesn't work anymore, you have to update your apps and stuff. But if you maintain one single version, you can create consistency in terms of the predictability and reliability of your program.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to bundle exec, you have what is known as global gems. So that is your default gem base set that's installed on your computer. So if you have SQLite 3, ActiveRecord, Pride, it will install it to your global version of Ruby. Sometimes what can happen is what your app thinks the gem version it wants to use, it will default to your global sometimes. If you want to force it to use the gem version specified in your gem file, you will use bundle exec, which is short for bundle execute. So bundle execute forces your app to use the exact versions of the gems specified in your gem file to create that consistency. So,
Thank you.
No surprise.
Cool. Great. That's the benefits of having a lead in the room, or Google also. Okay, so now you already know that you should never change anything in the schema. What should you do if you want to change anything in the schema? Valentin?
Have another file and create another class to update or to change something.
Yeah, you want to just create another migration that will change everything, or you can just do it in a clumsy way, horrible way, the way that I just did. But please don't quote me on that. And I will just cut it out from the recording. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
How about rolling back?
Yeah, you can roll back, of course, and then remigrate. There are a few different ways. In general, you should never touch the schema. That's what I want you to remember forever. Even once you're done with Flatiron School, never touch the schema. Okay, awesome. So now we want to set up associations in classes, right? Because if we only have associations in our database, that doesn't do much, because we also want to make sure that our models, our classes, know about each other. Cool? So let's do that. Okay, so joke. What about joke? I can show you. Wait, where is it? Here is the domain model. So what association should go here? Mm-hmm.
Has many user joke.
Has many
Colon user joke.
user joke.
And then has many user colon user
Mm-hmm.
comma through colon user joke.
Cool. How do you feel about it? Mm-hmm. I see Rihanna. Go ahead.
Can you just explain that to me, please?
What would you like to explain? To be explained? I can, but I also want everyone to be verbalizing their worries.
Of course. They has many
Cool. So before I do that, I am also expecting some criticism on the syntax here. What are you guys? I wanted to choose different intonation. Anyway, so what about the syntax here? Something is missing.
Missing?
Yeah. So S's are missing. Yeah, because if you have many, then you don't have many singular. You have many plural. So user jokes has many users through user jokes, right? Just like you remember that Ruby speaks English. So plural, plural. Okay, so now I really appreciate your question, actually. So let's go back to our colorful model. So thanks to the magic of ActiveRecord, you can, and also thanks to how Ruby is wonderfully thought out, you can access the joke through any given joke through, let's say, you can access any given joke through their association to a user. So user has many user jokes. Let's say that would be the favorites. Yeah. So let's say I like 3 jokes. Those are my 3 favorite jokes. And now I can also, if I want to, I don't know, just print out all the jokes I favorited, I can, thanks to this association, I can access these jokes. I can access their content, I can access the length of their content, I can access their IDs. If there was more, yeah, I could access even more information. Let's say if I had another model, now I'm gonna say something that will totally blow your mind. You can actually create a chain in which you would be user, user joke, joke, author, something, something. And you can just append all this as methods in Ruby, right? So you can do user.jokes. And then you will see all the jokes that user favorited.
Okay.
Yeah? We'll do that. Shami?
I was wondering, could you do the old way just for this example?
The what?
Like the old way we used to set it up, like that?
Not in this lecture, but I'm super happy to sit with you later on. Actually, to remember that, I'm just gonna park it. Old way associations. Cool. I'm parking it, right? Awesome. But something that I don't know, some people like to know, but when I was learning ActiveRecord, that really confused me. So if you are prone to confusion, just cover your ears. And if you are super curious about code, this is the moment for you. So hasMany is actually a method, right? That accepts arguments. So I will just show you something. So this syntax that you see here, this is just actually the argument to the hasMany method that accepts, that has the first symbol of users, and then there's a hash, right? But now, in order to simplify it for everyone around the world, they just created this syntax, which is pretty awesome, right? Because it's more readable. Cool. So how do you feel about this hasMany through? Like, this is, I feel great. This is like, huh. And this is, oh no, I'm drowning. Okay, some people don't feel anything. I will take it. I will hope that this is not despair manifesting itself. Okay, so joke is done. What I like to do, so I like to start with one corner and then go to the other corner. So now I'm gonna do joke. Oh, so I started with jokes, I will go to users now. And basically, I am just copy and pasting, right? However, here, it has many what? Jokes. Yes. And now, the more difficult part, the user joke. So what will go here? I encourage a person who hasn't yet spoken on this subject. How about you, Baruch? Cold naming. Yeah, cold calling. What would you write here? So you see, and so you see that you have a user that has many user jokes, and you have a joke that has many user jokes.
So it belongs to user, belongs to joke.
Perfect. Belongs to what?
The 2 dots.
Is it singular or plural?
Singular.
Yes, because it belongs to just one and belongs to
Same thing, but joke.
joke. Yeah. So usually I am against putting people on spot. However, just know that if I am doing that, I have a firm belief that this is a question you can manage. And, you know, however, if you are a person who can get lots of anxiety from that, tell me after the lecture so that next time I'm not gonna do that to you. Okay, cool. So we already have the associations. Now, how can we check whether our associations work? Any ideas? Jonathan.
Could create some seed data.
We can create some seed data. Okay, so let's go to seeds. Oh, we already have some seed data. Wonderful. So now, this is some seed data that you don't have to trust that it's good, right? Also, what the hell is this? User, joke, late night coding, laziness. Okay, so I would always, even if it's your seed data, I would always check whether what you have here is what you expect, what Ruby is expecting you to have. Okay, so joke. Joke should have a content. Joke should have a content, and the content should be a string. Awesome. User should have a username, Mazen. Yes. Why is this lowercase? An idea? Eric? Did you want to say? I thought that you opened. Joe?
You guys supposed to be case sensitive so that it's easier to check?
Yes, 5 points. Exactly. So in general, if you were writing your seed data, it's good to either write everything uppercase or lowercase, and then on the other side, put in safeguards that will prevent you from, running into, I don't know, user who inserts their name with every second letter being capitalized, right? So we're gonna do that. And then this is something that I just learned. I didn't know that you can do it this way. Usually, if I would create a user joke, right? I would do user joke dot create user, user ID, right? And then, actually, do you know how to do that? So what should I write here if I want the user ID to be this user? Rihanna?
Just put user.
And maybe a good practice would be already to write user ID. Okay. And then joke ID. Okay, does everyone understand where this came from? Eric?
Yeah, I'm confused with the IDs. I understand that, like when you create, like when they say a new user, they come with an ID already. Is that the same ID?
Exactly. So as far as I have the faint recollection, and we can check it in a moment. I have a faint recollection of that in maybe ActiveRecord would save you if you just wrote user right here, that it would still work. However, I would always tell you to be as specific as possible. Just for, this is a good practice, and it will save you, like if you develop this kind of habits, it will save you your life in React and JavaScript. And now why we are doing that? We are saying basically we are telling Ruby to go to user variable that's here, yeah? And we can actually maybe just not to have too many users. We have a user here, you have user here, here. So maybe I would just change the name to user1, just so that it's something different, right? And joke 1. Okay, cool. So what we are saying, we are telling Ruby first, hey Ruby, create a user with this username and save it to a variable user1. And then we are saying, hey Ruby, go to create a new joke with this content and save it to a variable joke1. And then we are telling Ruby, create user joke with the user ID pointing to find this variable, the user that is saved to this variable, and go to their ID. Now, we want to create a connection to .id because this is how we decided to create the join, right? So as you see, the user jokes require us to include a joke ID and user ID. Okay? And because of that, we need to provide it. Eric, how is it going?
Okay, so user has an ID. So you make the user, they have an ID. But where's the joke ID?
Oh yeah, you tell me. So now it's not here. What would you write here? Do you have an idea? Any like faint idea? Or anyone? Amy? Right? Because you see, I'm again telling Ruby because I want this joke and this user to be connected. Yeah? Mazen favorited this. This is a test joke. That's a great sense of humor, Mazen. Okay, so this is his favorite joke on the earth. So basically, I tell Ruby to go to the variable joke1 and withdraw from that joke1 the ID. And in this way, the connection will happen. Alex?
Just the ID from the database, right?
Yeah, because this has already been created. Eric, I see Yoshimi.
I'm sorry. Okay, so say user ID. So when you look up Mazen, right? And say he has an ID of 1, or just say 3, right? He has an ID of 3. So the joke ID is also going to be 3. Like they have the same ID number, or is it different?
They can be totally different because let's say if I created, let's do joke 2, and then this is again a test joke. So let's say Mazen saw this joke and he thinks, oh, this is the best. So actually, we want to point this joke ID to the second variable. And it doesn't matter what's gonna be the ID here. We don't need to know it. Ruby will know it because we saved this whole joke to a variable. So it will look for the variable and then it will be like, okay, so now give me the ID. It takes a little bit of practice. We'll do that. And there was Shami?
I was going to say, just a comment. It's not a question, just a comment. It's like every time you create a joke, the database gives it an ID automatically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So because of that, we don't have to write an ID here. This is Ruby's doing, which is very awesome because sometimes the IDs will be 5065. And now keep track of that. Yeah. And Rex? Okay, cool. And so usually I would create a user joke like that. However, watching another lecture, I just learned that you can do it this way, that you can shove this joke 1 into the jokes of the user. I kind of don't find it very intuitive, but it's here if you want to ever play with that, right? So now we have the seed data. What should we do? Oh, I heard already. Seed. Yes. RegDB seed. And look at that. The README is setting you for failure with the spaces. Okay, I corrected it. Sorry. So now, how do we know that it worked?
It won't say anything.
Because it won't say anything. Exactly. Okay, so now, okay. So now, if we want to check whether it worked or not, oh, I actually wrote it, right? Remember, seeding does not give you any output, so no news on your console is good news. So now we want to check whether we've seeded correctly. However, in order to run the console, we need to first create such a task. Now, I've already created the task. So there is a rake file here. You can put in here any kind of task you want. You can set, I don't know, you can create a task, rake, let's say, rake hello, and then the output would be just hello, right? So you can play with that. It's kind of funny. We're not going to do it now. But I created a task console. I'm going to shorten it to C. So now, in theory, when I call rake C, the console should pop up. And it did. Yeah, so what it does, it basically just starts the pry and it activates the ActiveRecord. Okay, so what do we want to check? Mohammed?
Don't we get rake DB console from the Sinatra gem?
Most probably, but I don't know. I was always told to do that, unless you are working on Rails. I don't know. I'm gonna check. Do you get the rake console from Sinatra gem?
Rake console from the Sinatra gem.
Because I wrote the rake console task, in rake file, but maybe, I don't know. I will check it and tell you. Okay, so we are in the console. So what do we want to check? Anyone?
Let's do user joke.all.
Yeah, maybe let's start with user all.
Okay.
We want to see whether all the users are created. And if you had more than one, it's always good to see .last, just to see who was the last person you created, right? So now we see that Mazen exists. And so now we can do joke.all, right, to check the jokes. We see 2 jokes. It's always good to do .last. Okay. And now, Jonathan, what did you say?
User joke.all.
Joke.all.
Well, no, the user and capital J joke without the period in between.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I thought something totally else. I misunderstood you. So we see that user joke has been created, right? Maybe let's also check what's going to happen if we call this. Oh. So you see undefined local variable or method user1. So why do I get it in the console if I see clearly that this variable is here? An idea? Okay, Jonathan?
Because the user1 variable is not saved to the database, because CLI is connecting to the database.
User1 is saved on seeds file, right? And so if I put in binding.pry in the seeds file, I would be able to work on that. However, on the console, I can only work on the database stuff. So if I want to see that user.all. For example, first, that's going to be also our last, .jokes. Cool. So coming back to your question, Rihanna, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Okay. You see, thanks to the associations, thanks to has many through, we don't have to do user.all.first. Now we are getting just the first user. User jokes. So those are the favorites. Yeah. First joke maybe. Yeah. Thanks to the fact that we set up our has many through, we can just simplify it to user all first jokes. Isn't this awesome? Okay. So now because of the fact that you see that there are 2 favorites, you see that both of these methods worked, right? I also want to show you something that many people don't know about, but it's really awesome. So, did you know that do you know what's gonna happen if I write user.create with a bang? Do you know what's the difference? I'll show you what's the difference. Let's do. So if you write it with a bang, you will get exactly the error why it didn't work, right?
Oh, the username,
I made it on purpose.
Okay.
Yeah? So now, look here. Oh. Okay, well, I don't know, but usually maybe it works only as a logger in the CLI. In general, it is better to. I've learned it that maybe it's only when you are working already with JavaScript or React. If you are if you write create with a bang, it will give you very specific error what exactly didn't work. Oh, sorry, it's from Rails on, because you have in Rails validations and stuff, but which will give you very specific errors. So I jumped the gun, but you can already get used to the fact that if you want to make your life easier, you can just write user.create with a bang, and in this way, in Rails and in JavaScript, later on when you have Rails backend, it will give you very specific errors. But for now, it doesn't make any difference for you.
Doesn't the bang like doesn't it force certain commands?
So it depends. No, so it depends on the method. Like for example, there's a method gsub, and gsub with a bang will give you most probably, I think, will result in a string, and just gsub will result in a different type. So it depends on the. It's always good. It's actually a very good question. It's good to consult the docs. Yeah. Do you have any? I see that you're processing. Evans, do you have any comment to that? Oh no, I thought that you're processing what I'm saying. No. Okay, good. Okay, so we have our seed set up, and we know that it works. Awesome. Our work is done. No, it's not. So now that we are already set up, we can go into our outline. So, okay, so we already set up our project. I'm thinking where to go with you next. So we have our migration, our database set up. Okay, so let me show you around our app, our folder, right? So as you see, I already spoke about rake file. Rake file is for specific tasks that you want your app to, specific rake commands that you want to include. That's not necessary, but you can play with it. Gem file is for the gems, right? DB, you already know. In config, you have environment file that basically configs your whole application and database and everything. Now, this line will be super important for you later on, but I will just comment it for now. It makes your CLI visually more pleasing, less cluttered. I will show you. We are basically also requiring all, just like Eric said, from the folder app. So we are saying that our environment will work on SQLite. It will use this database that is in under this address, database/development.db, and that will only work on the files that are in the app folder. Cool. We have a bin with runner. What runner does, it just creates a new. 1 second. Joke app. And so it will run, it will look for because of the fact that we have the environment set up this way, when we call run.rb, it will check in with the environment to know where to look for joke app. What is this? What actually is happening here? Annie? Yeah, creating a new instance of a joke app and saving it to a variable app. And then, what's this? No, you know that. You are basically calling a method run on the joke app, right? That you just created. Okay, so now where is this joke app, you may ask? Well, it's here. So it's, there are many different ways to set up your CLI. And I would suggest that you have one runner file, and then for just firing up the application, and one file for all the logic. Now, within this file, you can call other classes, right? But it's good to contain all the logic here. Now, as you see, this is not inheriting from, it is not using ActiveRecord. How do we know that?
It doesn't say ActiveRecord?
Yeah, it doesn't say this. Yeah, it's not inheriting from ActiveRecord. So because of that, maybe we know that we'll be using a user. So I will just create an attribute reader user. Is that the syntax? Like that? Cool. Awesome. Cool. So because of the fact that we have very limited time, I already wrote some kind of skeleton for the app. I will leave this comment here, just so you know what's happening. Okay. Cool. So now, I'm a huge fan, and not only me, but majority of the dev world, of creating as many helper methods as you need. Now, the extreme version of that is Sandy Metz, who says that each method should not be longer than 5 lines, and each class should not be longer than 100 lines, right? And so if you need more than, if your method is going to be a little bit fatter than 5 lines, perhaps you want to create a helper method. We're not going to be doing it this way. However, this is the ideal that you should strive for. Cool. So we see that as a user, I should be able to sign up, login. So I would say that once we do those 2 parts, we'll have a break. Exciting. Everyone woke up. Okay. Okay. So cool. So what do you see here? Are these just comments, or what this can be?
Methods.
They can be methods. Yeah. So there's gonna, once we, let's actually run it. So how do I run my app? Do you know?
Ruby run that.
Ruby what?
Ruby run.rb.
Run.rb. No such file or directory. Yeah, because look, we are in the lecture kit. Yeah, so we need to go into the folder of bin, and then, now this may seem obvious, but wait until you're tired and you're trying to run the file and you cannot. Okay, so we are getting an error on joke app, line 6. Undefined local variable or method welcome. That's correct. Now, we're gonna have a private method. I'm very used to writing in Atom. Okay, so what is it gonna be called? Welcome. Okay, so now, what do you want the welcome to say? Okay, so how about howdy? Howdy. Isn't this a wonderful day for some jokes? Okay, and then maybe, oh, spoiler alert, you can use this. So this will freeze the code execution for a second so that the lines will happen one by one. Also, puts. How about that? A question?
Could you explain what sleep does?
You will see what it does. Puts. Haha. Cool. So now, if I run the runner, what's gonna happen? Huh? Yeah. Isn't this a wonderful day for some jokes? Okay, let's do. Yeah. Now let's make this bigger, and let's clear it. How about that? Yeah. So the difference is that if you do sleep, and this is the amount of time, right? It will freeze the code execution for this amount of time, and this is, and you saw that the ha-has happened exactly at the same time. That's not true. There was a tiny difference, but you can't see that, right? But basically, if you want to have the kind of illusion of the CLI talking to you, just use sleep. Shami?
I wonder, is the welcome it have to be private? Because it will run like if it's not private.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see if it will run. Yes. But it's just a better practice to put anything you think should be just access. How to explain it with grace? Evans, how would you explain with grace why do we need private methods? Why is it good practice to put methods in private? I'm just being lazy here.
That is a very
Yeah.
complicated question.
Oh, so maybe not, because we don't have that much time.
To sum it up very quickly, the idea is only if the class needs to use something internally that doesn't need to be accessed outside, you put it under private.
Yeah.
That's like.
So in general, it is. It
This will
is.
make more sense when you get to Mod 2, when you will start to
Yeah.
see us use private, and you'll see an example. Right now, it's just very abstract, but you'll see an example in Mod 2 that'll make a lot more sense.
I decided to introduce it just so that you are not shocked when you see private methods later on. Question?
How do you end a private section?
How do you end?
Yes, or is it just like, should it be the last?
Everything underneath is private.
What is private?
Oh, what is private? What is public? What's political? We're gonna park this. Okay, we're gonna park this because we don't have time. Okay, basically those are the methods only accessible for this class, not from the outside. And so let's say from the runner, I won't be able to call, I don't know, a joke app.welcome because it is hidden. Yes?
So the private methods should be the last methods to be written in the class.
Yeah, below private. Yeah. So you should have a key private and then all the private methods. So the private, everything that will go under private will be private, right? Cool. So now we have okay, so now I just hinted here that we'll have login or sign up. So how do we want to ask the user whether they want to log in or sign up? Do you want to log in or sign up? Huh?
Take the first end.
Oh, yeah. Sing up would be better. Sign up. Okay. Or sign up. And now, how can we make sure that we remember their answer, or that actually they can type? Gets chomp, I hear. Everyone is excited about it. So how about we save it to a variable? Answer equals gets chomp. Yeah? And now let's just do puts. Now, in order to check, you can either throw in binding.pry or you can just put answer just to see whether what has been saved is what you thought you saved, right? So let's see. Ha 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 ha. Do you want to log in or sign up? Yes. Oh, and it outputs exactly what I thought it would output, right? You can also just throw in binding.pry. Now you can think, oh, but this is basic. Why would I test it? Oh, please. Don't trust yourself. Just, yeah. Cool. So now on like high level, what do we want to happen if they say something?
We want it to fit like a certain number of choices that would then elicit a specific response.
That will prompt users to act, right? Okay, and then basing on the choice, we want to either sign up or log in. Cool. So this should be here. So now, how can we, do you want to sign up, log in or sign up? So basically they do because they fired this app. So how about we just say, give us your name to, give us your username. What's your name, I don't know, to sign up. I had, or login. That's not the best phrasing, but we'll fix it later on. But that's basically what we want them, right? We want them to give us their name. But now, okay, so before we go into actually acting on this, how would you, what do we want to do if we sign up?
Create a username and a password.
So we want to create a new, we don't have passwords here.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Create a username.
So let's say it's going to be user equals user.new, and then username, it's going to be answer. Yeah? Okay. And now, for login, what do we want to do? Oh, maybe let's do create. Oh, sorry. And then with login, what do we basically want to do? Mm-hmm.
If answer equal
Yeah. We're gonna get to the logic, but like on the Mm-hmm.
We want to do user find by that.
Username, and that's answer. Right? Okay, so
Could we use find or create by?
Exactly. Look at you giving spoilers like that. That's true. So we could go the long way, right? So we can say if, let's say that's gonna be user name. I'm just gonna call that uname. Yeah. So if So basically we could go a long way saying that if this user exists, if this user, check in the database whether this user exists. If it doesn't exist, then create one, right? So that would be the long way. However, we can also do just create or, I think it's find or create by, right? Find or create by username. And in this way, we can just we can keep it as it was and save this to user. Okay. Cool. So now, how about we throw in binding.pry just to see whether our user has been created. Isn't this a wonderful day for some jokes? So I'm gonna write Mazen. Cool. So now, what you see, user has been loaded. It has been found in the database. This is the SQL speaking to you. And the code didn't break, and we are in binding.pry. How am I gonna check whether a new user was created or whether this user was found? Well, for example, user.all.last will tell me how many users there are and whether the new user was created. Yeah? So now I can check also, I saved this user that was just found or created to a user variable. So I can do user. I see that user is Mazen, and his ID is 1, and the last user is Sylvia. You can even go fancier and do compare at user to user.all.last. And if it's true, that means that a user was created. And if it's false, user was not created and Mazen was found. Right? Cool. So we know that our method works, but does it work? What's going to happen? Why can it not work? I will tell you. Yeah? So without this, cool. So now I'm gonna do the same. How am I gonna check whether a user was found or created? AJ? User.all last. Because I don't want all 70 users that we already created, right? Mazen. And now I'm gonna check. Yeah, and now that's ID 3, but actually Mazen we know that it was his ID was number 1. So that is not really perfect, right? So what we want to do, we want to downcase it. We want to downcase it because that's how we write our seed data, right? And then you can also downcase it here. However, I'm a strong believer of that every single method should have one job. So if you are creating an entry in database, this should be the only job, creating an entry, not doing math, not doing any kind of manipulations of string, right? OK, and now let's just make sure that we also welcome the person. So let's say, maybe let's do sleep. Maybe let's do 1. And then put alrighty. So what am I going to put here if I want to call the person with their name? OK. Let's see. Alrighty. Yeah, so what should I put? Username. Yeah, and now username is downcased, so we want to titleize it. What's the Ruby method for that? I see a strong presence of pre-work. I really like that. Yeah, it works. And now you may say, oh my God, this is giving us so much headache, this SQL. And that's what I told you. This is why you need this line. Because now, if we run it, yeah, it doesn't give you the ugly stuff. OK. Oh my, the time. Yeah, it's like, OK, so you know what? So we'll do the break. And then, so this is the setup of the CLI. However, we didn't get into the working with APIs. So I will look for another room, and there's going to be a second part of this. So yeah, so in 5 minutes, I will let you know where we are doing the part 2, so that other group can actually use the room as well. OK, thank you so much.